a weird nightmare last night. I've never experienced anything like it before. I relieved to be the same anxiety and do saying the events over and over. While it's true that nightmares are more common among children, out of every 2 adults has nightmares on occasion. Between 2% and 8% of the adult population is plagued by nightmares. But this one really did make me think. Even at work, I can feel it picking at my brain. I was on a Tuesday night around 10 o'clock when I was on the internet looking up for one of my favorite cartoons growing up. While I should be in bed because I had to get up in the morning to work, you see I'm practically 22 years old and has ADHD Asperger's syndrome. And of course with routines like this never go easy. I usually burn out my energy by pacing around the room, listening to music before growing drowsy and finally hitting the hay. My job at the hotel is sure enough, like having a job as a local prison. My 2 coworkers and I have the last person who ever worked before me had me in their midst. Or in other words, they had hated my guts because of my disability. Every day they scold me for the thinnest things, and when I even did my Scrabble, I made one mistake on the paper, and one of them would replace a piece of paper with a new one. While the same numbers on it, and the old one was thrown in the trash, the other thing that was there was a Spanish old woman who works there. Talk about ugly sin. She was one of those moles about a neck about the size of her nipple. And of course, this was covered in hairs every time you see it. I don't want to wash my eyes out with bleach, but of course, the thing about her is that she is extremely annoying, constantly walking past me and making weird whistling noises. She also talk where my coworkers are at, trying to try to talk to either my manager or one of my dumbass coworkers. It's like I don't want to see her disgusting, grotesque, vomit-inducing mole on her wrinkly back. She didn't even want to get that thing removed. God only knows. After about a day of finally getting home from that hellhole, getting dressed into my pajamas and watch YouTube videos and draw pictures before my mother gets home around 5 in the afternoon, after eating dinner, I got in the shower and went back to my YouTube before 10, but due to my ADHD, I wound up staying up late and I stayed on the picture of the Canadian cartoon Kid vs. Cat. On the page that was watching the live stream on the other day while I slowly drifted off to sleep and around 1 in the morning. What I dreamed about was something the most bizarre thing I've ever had. I suddenly appeared in what looks to be a lobby of some sort. Everything around me just appeared to look like it was drawn in 2D animation style. I even looked at my hands and body and I saw that I'm a cartoon. I look around and the lobby looking area, and it was dark and it was only lit by one candle behind the desk. Not to mention that it was too quiet by the sound of my breathing, which was audible, and the walls had been faded to paper with its slashes on tears on them. There was even drawings of stick figures drawn on the colored markers. Down the halls there were double doors right in front of me. I could hear the most gut-crunching sounds I've ever seen. It was like the wails of damned, except more haunting maliciously, and the lobby was empty, and all the halls continued to be filled with unnerving sounds. I entered through the double doors as I saw the halls that have damaged-looking interior. Children's toys scattered on the floors, some of the paint and concrete on the walls had been faded to some kind of times covered in mold, and the lights were even just broken or simply flickered. I heard the sounds grow louder and louder until I came across a large area surrounded by iron doors, like a prison cafeteria. The stairs had alphabetical blocks scattered around, and the lights on there were in the same way, broken or flickering. The air had its foul copper smell that burned my nostrils, and as for the sounds, I now heard them dramatically. It was a sound of painted moans and sobbing, and it all came from behind the specific iron doors that lead upstairs. I walked upstairs and looked at the pieces of paper that is taped to the other side of the iron doors. For one individual, named Jake Long, the door opened and a rusted lock on it, and the window was shut. A piece of paper had handwriting that reads, "Jake Long alive." Never got to see what Jake Long looked like since the window was shut, but the next thing I know was that the window was open, and Blossom could be seen inside what seemed to be a dark room, only dangling by a light bulb and enveloping the room in faded light. Her ankle was chained to the wall, and she looked absolutely miserable. Her body, of course, was so thin, and the entire chemical X could be seen through her pale gray skin. Her clothes were tattered and torn, and her eyes were bloodshot from crying. Her hair was messy and her teeth were rotted and decayed due to not having good hygiene for what looked like years. Underneath from her torn clothing, I could see some gruesome scars and critical injuries. What looked like extreme painful to look at. She didn't do any of that, but I just sit there and rock back and forth, babbling unbrubbly. Through her gibberish, I could vaguely hear her saying, "There has to be a way out. There has to be." The piece of paper near to this door reads, "Blossom deceased, but revived." The next door was the most creepiest. The window was shot, but it said it all. Johnny Bravo deceased. I was quite blown when I heard that. Questions bubbled in my head. How did Johnny Bravo die? Who was going to see these characters? Why were they there? Suddenly I heard something enter the room, and it was quietly down the hall, and I hid one of the empty rooms, and there I saw the most horrifying thing I've ever seen. It was lean, long-limbed, gray-skinned creature with a long black drill-like hair jutting down from the top of its head and down its back. Its face was large and gold-colored eyes. A small, flat nose and a mouth filled razor-sharp teeth had its hands out contained 5 digits tipped with the razor-sharp talons. And that long, it whipped like a tail. It walked on its hind legs until it stalked down the hall and stopped at the far end of the iron doors, where it opened with a big, large grinding sound. It had entered as the sound of a cat meowing with a heart-wrenching way, along with the sounds of the chains chattering. I watched as I dragged out Mr. Cat from the Canadian show. I looked up, chained up from its neck, and of course, protectively clawing on the concrete floor. I could see its tears in black eyes as he pleads to be begged for it to be let go. It dragged the poor alien animal down the hall. The sound of the cat's crying could be echoed through the hallways. As I silently followed it all the way to a large room, it resembled those operating rooms you see in the hospital. Around operating the table at the center, there were splashes of gore all over it and puddles of dry blood that were all over the floor. And it was the table of saws, knives, nails, and meat hooks that looked to be next to the table. On the opposite side, there was a headpiece and, of course, an electrical device. No doubt they were used for shocking therapy. Of course, the creature straightened up at the table so Cat wouldn't be strapped by one of its wrists and ankles, and it got ready for whatever tortures it be inflicted on the poor beast. Cat breathed heavily, and as streams of tears rolled down its purple face as the monster picked up 2 small cinder blocks and placed them underneath. The worst was about to come. I watched this person doing something really horrible to the cat. I don't even want to repeat it. It's really messed up, and I didn't even expect it to be at first. However, this went on for 10 minutes before Cat was dragged to the back of the room where he dragged out of and locked the door. I peeped through the window as Cat began crying softly. I got his attention by knocking on one of the doors. "Hey, okay?" I asked. "Go away," Cat said softly through his sobs. I've never heard Cat speak before. He usually says Miles' name from the show, but never in my life he has spoke of a human being. "Please, Cat, I'm begging you. Let me help you. You don't deserve this. None of you do." Cat just looked at me with the most miserable look anybody can give. "You don't understand. This isn't a place you can easily escape from. This is where all canceled cartoon characters go when they have nowhere else to go. And when the unusefulness isn't needed, they are left here to suffer in the hands of those creatures that have no known origin, who guard us effectively and torment us, and we all die from our injuries, but we're not have to wait here until we return to our idiot boxes, and we are here to rot and basically disappear, forever be forgotten by viewers around the world, left in absurdly and slowly fade into our subconsciousness and train our thought. It's best if you leave us to die. We are tired of begging for help, but how can you call for help when no one can hear you scream? It's critical. Believe me when I say this. There's no escape in these unholy walls. It's absolutely impossible." I was left speechless. Looking back at it all, I could see why I have to get back into that in a minute. I tried reasoning with the poor feline, but he'd tell me that it was impossible, and by me, I woke up. I didn't know what happened, nor the reason I came up with it. Maybe some sort of morbid message, or some person messed up my dream that turned into a gritty nightmare. Either way, though, I kept remembering about that dream during my time at my job. I haven't told anyone about this because I don't want it to ruin your childhood like most stories on the internet, and that's the thing. Don't take it just your standard creepypasta story. Consider this as awareness, because if you have any dreams like this, they have a meaning of it behind it. Who knows? Maybe a dream that I had was real in the cartoon world, or maybe it was about ghosts going to hell when they know they have nowhere else to go, or it might be more sinister. So I'll end up my story on a good note. My job went smoothly, and I have very little to lighten up and deliver, and there was so annoying workers to deal with. But still, though, that dream, whatever it meant, it really got me spooked, and its connection got canceled with cancel cartoons has me scratch the back of the head. Is it really where cancel cartoons go when their shows are booted from the animation industry? That question alone remains a mystery. And that, my little pretties, where canceled cartoons go. A creepypasta written by the Dark Cat. The Dark Cat, I want to thank you so much for this story. However, I am going to say right now that I am going to say that this story was actually very disturbing. Now, there were certain parts of the story that I didn't really narrate because they were too harsh for me to handle, or they were just a little upsetting at times. But I can actually say that I actually found this story to be quite good, in more ways than I could really count. The Dark Cat, I want to thank you so much for narrating this story, and thank you so much for sending me this story. This is actually a really good story, in my opinion. I actually found this story to be rather interesting. It's messed up, I could definitely say right now. It's definitely messed up. Like, don't get me wrong, I was really freaked out when I saw this, because this was obviously one of the most freakiest story I've ever seen. But I could definitely say was that this story itself was actually really disturbing, to say the least. And I could definitely say right now is that this story itself was actually really great, in my opinion. Like I'm going to say, the concept is very messed up, I could definitely say. I have no doubt that the Cartoon Network would do anything like this. Like, I wouldn't be too surprised if if this actually happened to Cartoon Network, with all the fact that, I could just say that the old cartoons that got canceled, and this is where they go. That's actually very disturbing. Like, I'm not saying it to be insulting, I'm just saying that this could be possible, in my opinion. Like, I could definitely say if this was possible, that would be actually pretty interesting, to say the least. It still freaks out, where I can definitely say, but I could definitely say right now is that that they get tortured and all that. So I didn't read the certain parts of the story because, well, they were too messed up, so that was kind of why I didn't read it, because some of it was a little too messed up, in my opinion. It's really messed up, I'm gonna be completely honest. Like, this story is actually really good, in my opinion. Like, don't get me wrong, the grammar was actually really good, the sentence structuring was really good, the storyline actually worked out well, and just basically the whole thing and how it went out. And I could definitely say this is actually believable. Well, probably not the fact that the cartoon characters get, tortured in many ways, but it's really disturbing. Now, I did not mention some of it because, I didn't mention some stuff what happened to the cat guy, the person from Kid vs. Cat, the cat, because, it was really too disturbing, and I didn't want to read it because, I was pretty disturbed by that, but don't get me wrong, I actually loved the story. The story actually worked out well, and even though this might be someone's dream, it actually may be possible. Like, we know that cartoons nowadays that they get canceled, they just don't really seem to be doing a whole lot. So, it's kind of one of the reasons why I don't really, watch new TV anymore. And this is kind of one of the reasons what happened to the old TV shows. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. But still, this is actually a very good possibility. And it's actually pretty possible that this could happen. Now, I really don't know if that's actually true for a full in fact, but it still really is possible. It's still possible, in my opinion, but it's still a pretty good story. And I'm definitely going to say right now, this was actually a really well-made story, and there was definitely lots of time and effort into it. So I could definitely say that it was pretty good. Now, I could say the grammar was really well done, along with the storyline, the sentence structuring, and basically the whole flow of the story. It actually was pretty believable, and it flowed out really neat with the story. So I could definitely say there was a lot of time and effort into the story. So I guess that's one of the reasons why I actually really like that story. So yeah, I could definitely say that this story was actually really interesting. But yeah, really disturbing, I'm gonna say that. Like, I actually was a little disturbed, but it was actually pretty good in my opinion. I actually thought this story was quite enjoyable in my opinion, and I actually found this one to be pretty cool. Cool. It's really interesting and messed up, but still, it still ends up working out well, and there's definitely lots of time and effort into it. So I could definitely say right now that this story, Dark Cat, you actually did a pretty good job on it, and I could definitely say, Dark Cat, you did pretty good. Even though it's disturbing, but it's still pretty nice. I really have to say right now, you did a pretty good job with this story. Alright, I guess I could probably just wrap up the review, but I'm going to say this right now that this is simply my own personal opinion, and if you disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story would have to be a 10 out of 10. It's good, enjoyable, very great concept. The grammar was good, the sentence structuring worked out well, the storyline was perfect, the flow of it went out well, and it's really dark and disturbing too, because I can imagine maybe the cartoon characters that did get canceled go through something like this. This is actually possible. So I could definitely say this is somewhat believable, but messed up at the same time. Now, anyways, I guess maybe that's just all I have to say. But other than that, the story was actually very well made and very enjoyable. Yet again, I did not read certain parts of it because it was just too messed up. But anyways, what did you all think about this creepypasta? Did you all enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what would you have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Leaving out what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you're brand new here to this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload so that you guys won't miss an upload. And like always, please roll the outro because I'm out of here, and I will be seeing you all in the next video. Peace out.